Dexter Early Cuts. Dexter Early Cuts is an animated motion comic web series that aired between 2009 and 2012. It serves as a direct prequel to the television show and gives audiences their first look at Dexter Morgan's earliest kills before the events of Season 1. Each episode is about 3 minutes long, with Michael C. Hall narrating. Across 3 seasons, the art styles range from comic panels to sketches to surreal paintings. This stylistic choice is deliberate, as each artistic approach reflects a different side of Dexter's personality and emphasizes the experimental phase of his life as a killer.
The number one rule, don't get caught. It's the only way you get to kill another day.
The defining trait of this version is how theatrical and sadistic Dexter is portrayed. Unlike the later, more controlled character seen in the original show, Early Cuts shows him in a raw experimental stage. He is learning how to dispose of bodies, testing methods of killing, and figuring out what truly satisfies the urges of his dark passenger. His ritualistic tendencies are already forming, but they are less polished, and his kills are often infused with a dark sense of humor. Victims are not just murdered, they are staged and mocked in gruesome performances tailored to their crimes. The darkest and most disturbing kill in this version is the murder of Cindy Landon, a manipulative black widow who had killed 3 wealthy husbands. Dexter abducts her and straps her into a magician's box, echoing the classic sawing a woman in half illusion. Instead of a trick, he uses a chainsaw to literally cut her in two while she is still alive. Cindy's screams and Dexter's enjoyment of the theatricality highlight this version's uniquely sadistic tone. It represents Dexter not as a conflicted vigilante, but as someone embracing performance and cruelty. This series also introduces Alex Timmons, a decorated Marine sniper who had murdered children during the Gulf War but escaped justice. Dexter kills him in a trophy-filled room, and this moment becomes pivotal because it's the first time Dexter takes a blood slide as a trophy.
A trophy? My first. My father wouldn't approve, but what can I say?
This detail creates continuity issues with the main show's timeline. These inconsistencies underline how Early Cuts is both a prequel and, at times, contradictory to the canon of the main series. Overall, this version of Dexter is unique because it explores the unstable, theatrical early days of his killing career. It portrays him as far more playful and sadistic than the main series ever allowed, emphasizing experimentation, irony, and raw violence in ways the original show did not. Dexter: Original Sin. Dexter Original Sin is a television prequel released in 2024. It takes place in the same timeline as the Michael C. Hall series but rewinds to a much earlier period, following a 20-year-old Dexter Morgan as he begins work at Miami Metro and grapples with his first impulses to kill. Unlike Early Cuts, which portrays Dexter as theatrical and cruel, this version focuses on his social awkwardness and his struggle to blend in with normal society. Patrick Gibson plays young Dexter, with Michael C. Hall voicing the monologue, keeping continuity with the main show. The defining characteristic of this version is inexperience. Dexter is clumsy, unrefined, and visibly uncomfortable in his new double life. His attempts at small talk and social bonding are unconvincing, and he spends much of his energy learning to appear human rather than learning to kill.
Yeah, Bobby. You look like you're one bite away from a myocardial infarction.
This makes Original Sin the complete opposite of Early Cuts, which emphasized experimentation with murder. Here, the central theme is Dexter's difficulty in constructing the mask that will later allow him to live undetected. The darkest and most disturbing moment in this prequel is his very first kill. His victim is Nurse Mary, an angel of death figure who euthanized patients under the guise of care. The act is brutal not for its method but for what it represents: the irreversible crossing of a line. The kill is messy, awkward, and far from his later efficiency. This is the moment when the dark passenger gains permanence, and Dexter transforms from a troubled young man into a serial killer. The primary antagonist of this series is Captain Aaron Spencer, a senior homicide officer at Miami Metro, who secretly abducts and kills children as revenge against his unfaithful wife. He is Dexter's first major adversary, and plays a key role in forcing the young killer to refine his code and sense of purpose. Continuity issues appear, such as conflicting trophy origins and inconsistent hair length in flashbacks in the original series. These inconsistencies highlight the challenge of fitting multiple prequels into the same canon. This version shows Dexter at his most inexperienced, learning the facade that later defined him in the original series.
In that moment, I realized a single incident could turn a good person into a monster.
Original Sin was originally renewed for Season 2, but then was canceled on August 22, 2025, partly due to the success of Dexter Resurrection. Dexter, the original TV series. The original Showtime series, which aired from 2006 to 2013, is the definitive version of Dexter Morgan. Across 8 seasons and 96 episodes, it established a blueprint for the character, and redefined him in a way that diverged significantly from the novels on which he was based. This Dexter, played by Michael C. Hall, is the central pillar of the television canon, connecting directly with Early Cuts, Original Sin, and New Blood. What distinguishes this version is the depth of his evolution. At the start of the series, Dexter is cold, efficient, and convinced that he feels no emotions. His public persona, smiles, casual conversation, camaraderie at Miami Metro, is entirely manufactured, a mask designed to conceal the emptiness underneath.
I have my excuses and justifications, but really I just need to.
Here he is in his prime, precise, ritualistic, and flawless at hiding his double life. As the series progresses, Dexter changes. He begins to experience genuine emotions, love for Rita, anger at betrayal, anxiety over exposure, and grief at loss. These feelings complicate his life, forcing him into mistakes and miscalculations. The cleaner, controlled killer of Season 1 gradually becomes more human, but in doing so, he becomes less effective. His system begins to break down, and his kills often spiral into chaos. No other version of Dexter demonstrates this level of transformation. The most disturbing kill in the original series is the murder of his brother, Brian Moser, also known as the Ice Truck Killer. Brian is the only other person who fully understands Dexter's urges, and their bond is genuine. But when forced to choose between his code and his brother, Dexter kills him. This tragic choice marks the first time Dexter is torn over a kill, and begins his evolution into a more conflicted, emotional character.
Not voodoo. When I picked up the knife, it's like I didn't know who I was.
The most memorable antagonist is Arthur Mitchell, known as the Trinity Killer, introduced in Season 4. On the surface, Arthur is a family man in public, but secretly commits ritual murders tied to childhood trauma. Dexter delays killing him, hoping to learn how to balance a normal family life with his homicidal urges. This hesitation proves fatal when Arthur murders Rita, changing Dexter's life forever. This version of Dexter is unique because it shows the complete arc of a character who begins as a detached predator and ends as someone broken by emotion, loss, and error. It is the version most audiences think of when they hear his name, and remains the standard against which all other adaptations are measured.
Because maybe there is a place for me in this world. Just as I am.
Dexter: New Blood. Dexter: New Blood is a direct sequel to the original television series, set nearly 10 years after Dexter fakes his death in Miami. It premiered in 2021 on Showtime, and ran for one season with 10 episodes. This version presents Dexter living under the alias Jim Lindsay in the small town of Iron Lake, New York. Outwardly, he has abandoned killing and built a quiet life with a stable job, a relationship, and the respect of his local community.
Your lifesaver, Jimmy.
Inwardly, however, he is still haunted by the dark passenger. The defining feature of this Dexter is guilt, unlike earlier portrayals where remorse was fleeting. He is no longer the efficient killer of the original series, but a man weighed down by years of secrecy, regret, and inner conflict. This guilt is dramatized by the hallucinated presence of his dead sister, Deborah, who acts as a manifestation of his conscience, criticizing and condemning his every move.
You did the right thing. He'll be safer with Hannah.
When Dexter eventually returns to killing, his skills have deteriorated. He is sloppy, reckless, and leaves behind evidence that draws suspicion. This version is the weakest. Even the code of Harry falters as his control erodes. The darkest and most disturbing kill in New Blood occurs when Dexter murders Officer Logan. After being arrested, Dexter kills Logan not because he fits the code, but simply to escape custody. Killing Logan, an innocent cop, shows how far Dexter has fallen from his vigilante code. The main antagonist of this series is Kurt Caldwell, a respected town figure who secretly preys on young women. He lures them into captivity, terrorizes them, then releases them, only to shoot them as they attempt to escape. His hidden trophy room, where he preserves his victims, is one of the most unsettling elements in the franchise. Caldwell's dual nature as both a pillar of the community and a sadistic killer mirrors Dexter's own double life, creating a sharp thematic parallel. A major inconsistency arises. Earlier seasons used M99, but New Blood retroactively replaces it with ketamine. This shift directly contradicts the long-established continuity of the main series. This version of Dexter is defined not by mastery, but by decline. Haunted, guilt-ridden, and careless, he represents the deterioration of the once methodical killer into someone overtaken by his own humanity and failures.
I'm sorry for everything I've done to you.
Dexter Resurrection is currently airing. The series premiered in July 2025 with a 2-episode launch followed by weekly episodes. As of this video, Episode 8, The Kill Room Where It Happens, has just aired, leaving 2 episodes left to conclude the season. While the full series has yet to air, this version is significant because Dexter Morgan himself returns as the central figure, despite his apparent death at the end of New Blood.
I got some good news. Lay it on me. You're officially alive.
What sets this series apart is its mid-season momentum. Fans are engaging deeply with the unfolding story, and justifiably so. Dexter, freshly awakened from a coma, journeys to New York to track down his missing son Harrison. Along the way, old allies like Angel Batista resurface, while new figures such as billionaire Leon Prater, played by Peter Dinklage, and vigilante Mia, Kristen Ritter, pull Dexter into a chilling underworld of serial killers. The cast is star-studded, with Michael C. Hall returning, new faces like Uma Thurman and Neil Patrick Harris, and familiar ones such as James Remar, David Zayas, and Jack Alcott. The first episode even shows surreal glimpses of past characters, blurring the line between memory, hallucination, and reality. The defining trait of this version is ambiguity. Earlier versions mapped out Dexter's path clearly, from inexperienced youth to efficient predator to guilt-ridden fugitive. Resurrection shows him confronting the consequences of his past. Thematically, Resurrection embodies reckoning. Previous versions emphasized experimentation, control, or decline. Here, the focus is on unfinished business and accountability. Dexter is no longer hiding. He is exposed, tangled in his past, and racing against mounting threats. The urgency of the story, paired with high-stakes character dynamics and shifting alliances, gives this version a raw, uncertain energy, unlike any before. Given the season's ongoing status, it's currently impossible to pinpoint the darkest or most disturbing kill of this version. Though recent episodes, such as the twisted revelation in Episode 6, Cats and Mouse, have delivered some of the show's most visceral shocks yet, overall, Resurrection represents the boldest step the franchise has ever taken, reviving its central figure after what was marketed as a definitive ending. Whether it ultimately redefines Dexter's legacy or fractures it further remains to be seen, but it has already proven itself as the most daring and unpredictable version yet.
There's no coming back from this. No God that can save him.
Dexter, the novels. The novels by Jeff Lindsay are the original source material for the character, beginning with Darkly Dreaming Dexter in 2004 and ending with Dexter is Dead in 2015. In total, there are 8 books. This version of Dexter is widely considered the darkest and most ruthless of all interpretations. Unlike the television adaptation, which gradually humanizes him, the novels immerse readers inside his mind through a first-person narrative, revealing a voice that is cold, arrogant, and detached. What sets this Dexter apart is his lack of moral conflict. He does not seek redemption, nor does he struggle with emotions in the same way the television Dexter does. His inner thoughts are sharper and more confident, and his motivation is singular: to kill.
Wait, does that make me human? Huh.
Jeff Lindsay explained that book Dexter doesn't care about justice, only satisfying his urge, making him far less sympathetic than the TV version. The novels also diverge with the inclusion of supernatural elements. In Dexter in the Dark Passenger is revealed not as a psychological metaphor, but as an ancient supernatural entity that has possessed killers for centuries. Though later dropped, it's the only version to treat Dexter's urges as literally supernatural. Family dynamics are also altered. Deborah learns his secret in Book 1. Brian remains alive and collaborates with Dexter on multiple occasions. Rita is still present, but instead of Harrison, she and Dexter have a daughter, Lily Ann. Later books also introduce Nicholas, Deborah's son, further changing the family structure from the television universe. The darkest kill in the novels is Dexter and Brian's torture and murder of a cartel member named Evan. The act is described with minimal detail, but leaves readers to imagine extreme mutilation. The absence of restraint and allowing imagination to fill the gaps makes it particularly disturbing. The most memorable antagonist is Dr. Danko, introduced in Dearly Devoted Dexter, a former military surgeon. He captures and mutilates victims by removing their tongues, limbs, and eyelids while keeping them alive. He forces them to watch their disfigurement through a mirror, creating one of the most gruesome villains in the Dexter franchise. Taken together, the novels depict Dexter as a colder, more sadistic figure than any screen version, free from the emotional complexity that softened his television counterpart.
I can't do it anymore. What we've been doing.
You don't have to.
But you do.
Dexter, the Marvel Comics. In 2013 and 2014, Marvel Comics published 2 5-issue miniseries written by Jeff Lindsay, the original author of the Dexter novels. These were titled Dexter and Dexter Down Under. Unlike the television adaptations, these comics belong to the novel continuity, not the Showtime universe. They represent the only time Lindsay's book version of Dexter was translated into a fully illustrated format. Visually, this Dexter matches Lindsay's clean-cut brown-haired description, only resembling Hall in some covers. This underlines the distinction. The comics are rooted in the novels, not the show. Personality-wise, this Dexter is colder, more confident, and far less conflicted than his screen counterpart. He does not wrestle with guilt or morality in the same way. Socially, he is smoother, more charismatic, and capable of maintaining normal relationships without the same awkwardness. In terms of killing, he is portrayed as consistently efficient, more like the early television Dexter at his prime. The comics also introduce differences in family life. Like the novels, Dexter and Rita have a daughter, Lily Ann, but later raised Deborah's son, Nicholas. In the comics, as in the books, she learns about his killings by the end of the very first story, much earlier than in the show.
Why? We're doing better. I'm being all open and...
Additionally, Brian Moser, Dexter's brother, remains alive, unlike in the television adaptation where Dexter kills him. The darkest kill in the comics occurs in Dexter Down Under. Captured by Octavio, Dexter breaks free and kills him with a pitchfork, one of the most visceral comic moments. The primary antagonist in Dexter Down Under is Bruce Grigsby, a wealthy Australian businessman who leads a white supremacist group and hunts immigrant families for sport. His character is notable for how large-scale and politically charged his crimes are, giving the comics a broader scope than most Dexter stories. Another villain, Steve Gonzalez, ties the comics back to the books, as he also appears in Dexter in the Dark, as Dexter's childhood bully. This connection reinforces the comic's place in the novel canon. Ultimately, the Marvel comics present a colder, sharper Dexter, truer to Lindsay's original vision, diverging strongly from the conflicted, emotional version that audiences came to know through television.
It's okay, son. To show what you're feeling.
Dexter, the video games. In 2009, Showtime partnered with Icarus Studios to release Dexter the game for iOS, later ported to PC and other platforms. This interactive adaptation retells the events of Season 1, placing players directly in Dexter Morgan's shoes. Michael C. Hall reprised his role by providing voiceover narration, making it one of the rare adaptations where the original actor crosses into another medium. The defining characteristic of this version is player agency. Instead of watching Dexter carry out his rituals, players actively guide him, investigating suspects, gathering evidence, preparing kill rooms, and carrying out executions. Gameplay mixes stealth, puzzle solving, and moral decision-making. Breaking the code, such as killing the wrong person or being careless, results in failure, reinforcing Harry's rules through mechanics rather than dialogue. The darkest aspect of this version is its interactivity. Players don't just observe Dexter's murders, they perform them.
You're gonna pay for this!
Careful, if you struggle too much, I might put out an eye.
From building kill rooms to wielding the knife, players become complicit in the violence, which is unsettling in ways television or novels can't replicate. This blurring of audience and character remains unique to the game adaptation. In 2011, a sequel titled Dexter the Game 2 was released on PC, Mac, and iOS. Unlike the first entry, which focused strictly on Season 1, the sequel adapts events from Seasons 4 and 5, allowing players to encounter the Trinity Killer storyline. While the gameplay remained similar, stealth, investigation, and ritual kills, the graphics and mechanics were upgraded, creating a more polished, cinematic experience. Continuity issues arise because players can alter the outcomes of key moments, sometimes diverging from what occurs in the show. For example, players may eliminate targets earlier or in different ways than the canonical story, creating alternate timelines where Dexter's path unfolds differently. Taken together, Dexter the Game and Dexter the Game 2 stand out as the only interactive versions of Dexter. Unlike the novels, comics, or television shows which ask the audience to watch or imagine, these games make the player embody Dexter, turning them from passive viewer into active participant in the Dark Passenger's rituals.
Dexter, early cuts. Gene Marshall. Gene was a real estate mogul and arsonist who set fire to his own apartment complex, killing 7 residents. Declared mentally unfit and briefly institutionalized after paying off his psychiatrist Dr. Greenstein. He was freed and returned to luxury living. Later, Dexter subdued him at his mansion, placed him on a kill table, and punctured his throat, having to go help Deborah. Dexter shoved him in the trunk. When he opened the trunk, Thornton attacked. Dexter knocked him out with a flashlight, then ran over his head. Dismembered remains were burned in a barrel, which misfired and exploded, prompting the purchase of his boat, Slice of Life, to dump body parts offshore. Alex Timmons. Alex was a discharged U.S. Marine sniper who continued killing civilians after returning home, using long-range rifle shots as his primary method. His known victims span multiple ages, consistent with an opportunistic, distance-based MO rather than a specific victim profile.
I used to hunt as a kid, but that was just animals.
Those people are animals.
He is one of Dexter's earliest documented kills, and the first case to prompt Dexter's blood slide trophy habit. Timmons appears in both an on-screen flashback and the Early Cuts web series, which depict his capture and death at close range after admitting to the murders. Max and Coleman Lindquist. A father-son killing team operating around the December holidays, the Lindquist targeted couples made up of a prostitute and her client. Coleman carried out the hands-on murders of the prostitutes and delivered the clients to Max, who then killed the men. The timing corresponded to the date Max's wife, Coleman's mother, left the family. Their pattern produced a string of linked homicides before they were overpowered by Dexter.
I came here for proof that Coleman Lindquist has been killing women. I found my proof. A lot more than I bargained for. How exciting.
He restrained them both under plastic, got a 2-in-1 blood slide, and disposed of their bodies at the underwater dump site. Cindy Landon. Cindy was a black widow who marries elderly men and kills them to inherit their money. She works as a magician's assistant and uses her shows to project a harmless persona while planning the next murder. Her confirmed victims include at least 2 prior husbands, one pushed down a staircase, and another killed by doubling his heart medication dose. A third husband is identified by Dexter as her current target at the time she is intercepted.
You could show me tonight, if you're free. It's okay. I'm married, too.
I can keep a secret if you can.
He lures her to a late-night meeting and places her inside a magician's box for the classic saw the woman in half trick. Then Dexter saws her in half with a chainsaw. Peter Thornton. Peter was Dr. Robert Milson's graduate teaching assistant. After covertly witnessing Dexter kill Milson, Thornton imitates the method and escalates into a copycat offender. His known history includes killing his father years earlier, then murdering a student, Jenna Lincoln, with a knife to the heart and bludgeoning a campus security guard to engineer a confrontation. The pattern shows fixation on replicating Dexter's setup rather than a coherent personal MO.
Got your note. I was hoping to hear from you.
You put on quite a show.
I could say the same.
And you aren't upset at what I did?
Dr. Milson got what he deserved.
He is ultimately killed by Dexter. Dexter, Original Sin. Captain Aaron Spencer. A close friend of Harry Morgan and Miami Metro's homicide captain who maintained a strict, results-driven persona while secretly operating as the masked kidnapper who kidnapped and murdered children. One of them, Jimmy Powell, a judge's son. He also abducted and cut off his son Nicky Spencer's finger as revenge against his unfaithful wife. His authority inside the department let him steer investigations away from himself, murder witnesses, and control tempo and access to investigations. After a first failed attempt, Dexter eventually drugged, then stabbed Spencer in the chest and dumped his body in Biscayne Bay. This betrayal of Harry's trust reinforced Dexter's role as judge, jury, and executioner. Brian Moser, the ice truck killer. Brian is Dexter's biological older brother. For 3 days, they survived in the shipping container massacre where their mother was murdered. Harry Morgan took both boys in. They adopted Dexter, but Brian scared them and was subsequently institutionalized, shaping a trajectory that later becomes evident in Original Sin. Brian begins hunting and killing people linked to his childhood trauma and quietly tracks Dexter for years without revealing himself. He is portrayed as an emerging serial killer, whose actions draw the attention of Harry Morgan and Maria LaGuerta. Dexter Original TV Series. In Dexter Season 1, Brian lives under the alias Rudy Cooper, working as a prosthetic specialist. His hallmark method is to drain victims of blood and then dismember them, often leaving staged, bloodless scenes and taunting anatomical messages left for Dexter. He embeds himself in Dexter's life by romancing Deborah, then abducting her when his cover begins to slip. When the truth came out, Brian offered Dexter a life without the code, but it meant killing Deborah. Dexter drugged him and placed him on his own table. Choosing his adoptive sister and the code over his blood brother, Dexter slit Brian's throat with a scalpel.
Sorry. I can't hear anymore.
Staging it as a suicide. James Dokes. James was a homicide sergeant and former Army Ranger who became the first colleague to seriously suspect Dexter's double life. He tracks Dexter aggressively on and off duty. Dokes conducts an off-book search of Dexter's apartment and discovers a hidden blood slide box in an air vent, then places a GPS on Dexter's boat and follows him to a remote cabin, where he witnesses Dexter handling dismembered remains. He attempts to apprehend Dexter, but is overpowered and locked in a cage at the cabin. Lila West later finds the cabin.
What the f*** are you doing? No! Turn that off!
In order to protect Dexter, detonates a propane explosion that kills Dokes. Investigators posthumously label him the Bay Harbor Butcher, closing the case. Years later, a recovered blood slide from another crime scene leads Maria LaGuerta to reopen the investigation in an effort to clear Dokes' name. Lila West. Lila is introduced as a Narcotics Anonymous sponsor and sculptor, whose primary weapon is fire. Her known homicides include an ex-boyfriend she admits died when she set his house ablaze while high on meth, and Sergeant James Dokes, whom she killed by triggering a propane explosion at the Everglades cabin where Dexter had him locked up. At first, she seemed to accept Dexter for who he was, but her obsession turned dangerous. She commits multiple arsons to manipulate outcomes, including burning her own loft for sympathy. After kidnapping Astor and Cody, she locks them and Dexter inside her apartment and sets it on fire.
Go, run! Find help!
Come on, Dexter!
All three escape. Lila flees to Paris, where Dexter later locates and kills her by a single stab to the heart. Miguel Prado. Miguel is an assistant district attorney who becomes Dexter's friend and first active accomplice. He studies Dexter's methods to serve his own wants and begins selecting targets that benefit his career and grudges. Prado's first confirmed homicide is Billy Fleeter, a dead enforcer. After Dexter sets up the takedown, Miguel personally performs the stabbing in a casino storeroom. Dexter then disposes of the body alone at sea. This event marks Miguel's transition from would-be vigilante to hands-on killer. Prado's solo murder is Ellen Wolf, a defense attorney he viewed as a threat. He beats, stabs, and strangles her, then hides the body in a shallow grave at a cemetery, sloppy and traceable compared to Dexter's process. When Maria LaGuardia starts connecting him to Wolf, Prado targets her next. Dexter intervenes by killing Miguel with a garrote and staging the scene to look like the Skinner killed him.
You little freak! You think I'm done with you? You think this ends here? It doesn't!
It does for you.
Police later accept that narrative, while Dexter takes no bloodslide from Prado. George King, the Skinner. George runs a Miami tree trimming company while secretly torturing and killing people by skinning them alive to extract information. A former Nicaraguan military interrogator nicknamed the Blade, he begins hunting for Freebo after the dealer disappears, rationalizing his assaults as a matter of respect. His tools and method are consistent: sharp trimming knives, prolonged skin removal, and public body dumps. Some of his known victims in Miami are Tegan Campbell, Javier Garza, and Wendell Owen. King also kidnaps Anton Briggs and partially skins him before Deborah and Joey rescue him. These incidents establish his pattern: abduct, restrain, then skin and torture for answers. He also later abducts Dexter and ties him to a table. Dexter breaks free, snaps King's neck, and stages the death as suicide by dropping the body from an upper level as police arrive during the manhunt. Dexter escapes out the window, and the investigation closes with King deceased and blamed for Prado's death. Arthur Mitchell, Trinity Killer. Arthur is a long-running serial murderer who hides in plain sight as a church deacon, teacher, and charity volunteer. His multi-decade pattern spans U.S. cities while he kills in cycles. Each cycle includes a 10-year-old boy abducted, drugged, and buried alive in wet cement, a young woman killed in a bathtub by slicing the femoral artery, a married mother coerced into jumping from a high building, and a father bludgeoned with a hammer. After each murder, Arthur leaves a smudge of his sister's ashes at the crime scene. These acts reenact traumas from his childhood. Dexter studied him closely, hoping to learn how to balance dual lives, but ultimately discovered Arthur's family lived in terror.
I should have killed you when I had the chance.
Arthur is ultimately killed by Dexter, but before his death, he murders Rita in a bathtub and leaves their infant son sitting in a pool of his mother's blood, mirroring Dexter's childhood trauma, an act that directly impacts later events. Barrel Girl Gang. The Barrel Girl Gang is a closed group of 5 offenders: Jordan Chase, formerly Eugene Greer, Boyd Fowler, Cole Harmon, Dan Mendel, and Alex Tilden, who abducted, assaulted, and tortured women over many years, murdering 12 victims and storing bodies in industrial barrels later discovered by police. The investigation ultimately tied the case's origin to a teenage assault at summer camp engineered by Chase, who learned to manipulate others into doing the hands-on violence. Jordan acted as ringleader using psychological control. He generally avoided touching victims himself while directing others. Lumen made the final kill after she and Dexter took him down.
I'm sorry. I know that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Well, he was right about that part. There is no polite way.
Boyd worked county dead animal pickup. He handled logistics and performed the murders before being killed by Dexter early in the case. Cole, Chase's head of security, enforced control and carried out much of the physical torture. Dexter killed him in a hotel confrontation, narrowly saving Lumen's life. Dan was a children's dentist who participated in assaults and intimidation. Dexter killed him by snapping his neck after Lumen shot him. Alex was a banker who financed, participated, and attempted to buy Silence. Lumen killed him with Dexter assisting in the setup. Stan Liddy. Stan is a former Miami Metro narcotics detective, fired after an internal affairs sting for prostitution. After losing his job, he is informally hired by Detective Joey Quinn to investigate Dexter and becomes fixated on proving criminal activity as leverage to get his badge back. Liddy conducts illegal surveillance. He signs out police gear under Quinn's name, plants equipment to monitor Dexter's home, tails his boat, and secretly records Dexter and Lumen transporting a wrapped body. He also stages a minor car crash to obtain Lumen's identity and repeatedly extorts Quinn for more cash to continue the off-books probe. Liddy escalates to direct coercion, tasing Dexter and trapping him inside a surveillance van, attempting to force a confession.
I don't have no search warrant, and these people are sticklers for rules. Which is why you're gonna give me a full confession.
During the struggle, Dexter stabs Liddy in the chest, killing him. Liddy is one of the show's rare main antagonists who does not kill anyone on screen. Travis Marshall, Doomsday Killer. A paper conservation specialist at the Miami Cultural Center, Travis commits public apocalyptic-themed murders arranged as tableaus based on the Book of Revelation. He previously killed his mentor, Professor James Geller, then hallucinated him as a partner while carrying out the crimes. His direct victim count is listed at least 11, with additional indirect deaths tied to the displays. He kidnapped Harrison for a final sacrifice.
Stop! What? Get away from him! I killed you! Stay back! You're supposed to be dead.
Dexter saved his son, captured Travis, and took him to the same church where his spree began. There, Dexter secured him to the table and killed him with the sword Marshall had stolen. Deborah walked in on the crime scene, discovering Dexter's secret. It was then that Dexter dropped a bloodslide, a mistake that led Maria LaGuerta to reopen the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation. Isaac Serco, Koshka Brotherhood boss. Isaac is a high-ranking leader of the Koshka Brotherhood, whose campaign in Miami is driven by revenge for his lover, Victor Baskov, whom Dexter killed. He operates through a strip club front and leverages syndicate resources to identify and eliminate anyone tied to Victor's death. Serco kills Tony Rush, a club bouncer who leaked Victor's name to the cops by stabbing him through the eye with a screwdriver. He executes Lewis Green with a single headshot on Dexter's boat after confirming the boat's owner. He coerces Alex DeBrosny into writing a suicide note and then shooting himself to stall the police probe, threatening the man's family to force compliance. He kills 3 members of the Rojas cartel at a bar with a bottle strike and head stomp. When Serco's vendetta jeopardizes the Brotherhood's business, they turn on him and hire assassins to take him out.
I'll never do anything without the support of the Brotherhood. But I feel like something has to be done.
Dexter neutralizes Oleg Mikic, a sniper the Brotherhood rates highly, while Serco personally shoots Benjamin Caffrey after Dexter lures him aboard a cargo ship. George Novikov ambushes Serco and shoots him in the abdomen, dying. Serco requests a burial at sea alongside Victor, which Dexter carries out. Maria LaGuerta. Maria is Miami Metro Homicide's commanding officer, who reopens the Bay Harbor Butcher inquiry after discovering a bloodslide at Travis Marshall's crime scene. A private lab confirms the blood belongs to Travis Marshall, convincing her the Butcher still operates and that James Dokes was wrongly blamed. She uses her authority to pull historic Bay Harbor case evidence from federal custody and quietly resumes the investigation with Dexter among her prime suspects. The pursuit culminates at the port's shipping yard, where LaGuerta is lured into a container via Hector Estrada. Dexter incapacitates her with M99, intending to stage a mutual shootout between LaGuerta and Estrada, but Deborah arrives and under extreme duress shoots LaGuerta, killing her. The official case file records a reciprocal shooting between Estrada and LaGuerta, closing the investigation without implicating Dexter. Oliver Saxon, brain surgeon. Oliver, born Daniel Vogel, is a serial killer who removes a portion of each victim's anterior insular cortex, the brain region tied to empathy, using a saw and surgical tools, then often sends it to his mom as a taunt. He operates under a stolen identity and is later identified as the biological son of neuropsychiatrist Evelyn Vogel, having faked his death as a youth after setting a fatal fire at a psychiatric facility, killing 7 children. Among his other kills, he slit his mother, Evelyn Vogel's throat in front of Dexter. He also shoots Deborah Morgan while trying to escape, causing surgical complications, later rendering her brain dead. After arrest, Dexter confronts Saxon in an interview room.
Is that why you're here? Tell me all this.
No, I'm here to kill you with that pen.
He stabs him in the neck with a pen, made to look like self-defense. Dexter, New Blood. Kurt Caldwell, runaway killer. Kurt Caldwell is a decades-long serial killer in Iron Lake who targets runaway young women. His MO is consistent: imprison victims for days in a cabin, then release and shoot them with a rifle as they try to flee. He embalms most victims and displays the bodies as trophies in a hidden underground bunker. His confirmed victims include Angela Bishop's best friend, Iris Broussard, killed in his youth and hidden in the Clark Caves, and Molly Park, host of the Mary Effing Kill true crime podcast, among others. By the time he is stopped, 30 preserved bodies are stored in his bunker over 25 years. After connecting Dexter to his son's disappearance, Caldwell targets Dexter and Harrison and burns Dexter's cabin down in retaliation. He is arrested for Iris Broussard's murder, but released when the partial DNA match creates reasonable doubt. When Kurt rushes home to get his go-bag and skip town, Dexter and Harrison ambush him and restrain him on his embalming table in his bunker.
Do you have any idea the trauma that they were going to go through? I do. I saw it. I saw it firsthand, what my dad would do to them.
Hey! I told you no dad.
Dexter stabs him in the chest. Then they cremate the remains at the Iron Lake Sanitation Incinerator, the same facility used to dispose of Matt's body. Leon Prater. In Resurrection, Leon Prater is a billionaire venture capitalist who recruits, funds, and curates active serial killers, inviting them to private dinner gatherings and housing their trophies and evidence in a fortified vault inside his Manhattan manor. He uses cash invitations, then leverages influence and security to protect the circle. He has indirect kills via orders to Charlie, his head of security and enforcer. Charlie is a former special operations operator who tracks, verifies, and escorts killers to Prater's events. Her motivation is bound to her mother's critical medical care, which Prater funds, driving her to follow his directives despite her personal disgust for Leon's de facto serial killer club. Prater's control escalates from patronage to coercion when he demands Dexter kill Angel Batista as the price of him financing Dexter's operation.
And rule number 1 is, don't get caught. We were partners once. Maybe we can be partners again.
When Dexter refuses and frees Batista, Leon impulsively shoots Batista in the back and kills him, then imprisons Dexter in the vault, leaving him to die. With Harrison's help, Dexter escaped, but returned when Prater targeted Harrison. Offering himself in exchange for his son's life, Dexter was refused. Harrison incapacitated Leon with M99, allowing Dexter to kill and dismember him. Before leaving, Dexter triggered the vault alarms, so NYPD would uncover Prater's files and link him to Batista's murder, then dumped the remains in New York Harbor. Dexter didn't take a trophy, stating he didn't want to remember him. Brian Moser, The Brother Who Lived, novel version. In Jeff Lindsay's novels, Brian's fate diverges sharply from the television series. Instead of dying at Dexter's hands, he survives and becomes a recurring figure throughout the books. Brian is depicted as fully embracing his homicidal urges without restraint or moral code. Unlike Dexter, who follows Harry's rules to control his dark passenger, Brian kills without boundaries or justification. He is unapologetically predatory, taking pleasure in murder as an end in itself. His survival changes the dynamic of the novels significantly. Rather than serving as a one-time antagonist, Brian becomes an uneasy ally to Dexter in later books. He assists when Dexter faces external threats, using his own violent tendencies to protect his brother. At the same time, he consistently challenges Dexter's reliance on Harry's code, dismissing it as an artificial construct. This ongoing relationship highlights the contrast between the two brothers, Dexter as the killer bound by rules, and Brian as the unrestrained reflection of what Dexter could become without them. Dr. Danko, the Torturer. Dr. Danko appears in Dearly Devoted Dexter, the second novel in Jeff Lindsay's series. He is one of the most disturbing antagonists introduced in the books, defined not by the number of people he killed, but by the way he destroyed them. Danko was a former associate of a special forces unit, infamous for his methods of torture. Rather than killing his victims outright, he mutilated them piece by piece. His process included surgically removing body parts, tongues, eyes, limbs, while deliberately keeping his victims alive and forced to watch the complete process. The end result was not death, but total physical and psychological ruin. Survivors were left unable to communicate or function, effectively erased as people while still trapped in their bodies. His victims included Miami police officer Albert Dokes and military personnel, specifically targeting those connected to his past. Danko's actions were not random, they were calculated acts of revenge. This made him a different type of antagonist from others Dexter faced, one who worked from a plan rather than impulse. Dr. Danko stands out in the novel continuity because his atrocities forced Dexter into conflict, not just with a killer, but with someone who weaponized precision and control in ways that mirrored Dexter's own skills, but without any code of restraint. Albert Dokes, novel overview. This version of Dokes is a Miami-Dade police sergeant who appears across the Dexter novels, first in Darkly Dreaming Dexter, last in Dexter's Final Cut. He is not the TV character James Dokes. He is James's novel-only counterpart and functions as a recurring antagonist who doesn't trust Dexter. Dokes is depicted as physically imposing, highly disciplined, and deeply intuitive about criminal behavior. From early in the novels, he openly dislikes and distrusts Dexter, shadowing him non-stop while attempting to catch him in suspicious behavior, similar to the TV version. In Dearly Devoted Dexter, Dokes' pursuit intersects with the investigation into Dr. Danko, a torture specialist from his old Special Forces circles. During that storyline, Dokes is abducted by Danko. He survives, but is partially dismembered. including having his legs cut off and tongue cut out while awake and forced to watch, a hallmark of Danko's method of destroying victims without killing them. Dokes remains alive afterward in the novel continuity. Moloch, origin of the Dark Passenger. In the novels, Moloch is presented as an ancient, malevolent entity, the original Dark Passenger, that can inhabit humans and influence them to commit evil acts. He appears only in the third book, Dexter in the Dark, and does not exist in a television storyline. Moloch's mythology frames it as existing since the beginning, spawning many offspring, known as other passengers, and destroying those that rebel. This establishes Dexter's passenger as one among many, not a purely psychological construct. In the story, Moloch's presence causes Dexter's own Dark Passenger to abandon him and hide for most of the novel. A secretive group referred to as the Watcher, often called the Cult of Moloch, worships Moloch and targets Dexter, whom they call the Other. Their ritual practice includes child sacrifice using a bull-headed statue with a fire in its belly. Their plan involved throwing Aster and Cody into the statue. They believed that if the host Dexter experienced enough pain and anguish, his passenger would return, allowing them to destroy it. Despite Dexter being burned during the ritual, his passenger does not return in that moment and only resurfaces later during Dexter's wedding to Rita to console him. Throughout the novel, Moloch exerts pressure signaled by drums and trumpets that almost hypnotize Dexter to do things against his will or that he's unaware of. While different passengers are contrasted, Cody Bennett's passenger openly resists Moloch, whereas Dexter's retreats. These elements define the supernatural framing, unique to the novels. Alana Acosta and the Coven. In the fifth novel, Dexter is Delicious. A cannibalistic cult called the Coven operates in and around the Miami nightclub. Prominent members include Alana Acosta, a councilman's wife, Bobby Acosta, her stepson, also known as Vlad, and Victor Chapin. The Coven functions as the book's primary antagonist. The investigation begins with the disappearance of Samantha Aldevar and her friend Tyler Spanos. Clues point to cannibalism and to men with filed fang-like teeth, including Bobby Acosta. Evidence later confirms Tyler was killed, barbecued, and eaten. Dexter and Deborah trace the trail to Club Fang. Dexter breaks in after hours and finds Samantha alive in a walk-in refrigerator, where she discloses she volunteered to be eaten. She locks Dexter in the fridge with her to prevent her from being rescued. The pair are subsequently moved to a trailer in the Everglades, where the police rescue Dexter. A tip leads police to an abandoned amusement park, where the Coven captures Dexter, Deborah, and Kyle Chutsky. It is revealed that Alana Acosta leads the group and is actively cooking a slice of Samantha. Brian Moser, one of her henchmen, intervenes, shooting Alana and other Coven members, enabling a rescue. Samantha soon dies of her injuries. Bobby flees, and Dexter later decides to take care of him at Deborah's request, indicating the Coven's dismantling through a mix of arrests, deaths, and vigilante retribution. Brandon Weiss, the performance artist killer. Brandon is the principal antagonist of the fourth novel Dexter by Design, a Miami-based performance artist and former writer for the city's tourism bureau who turns homicide into art after Dexter killed his partner Alex Donkovich. Weiss stages bodies as avant-garde installations, tableaus mocking Miami's tourist culture, and films both the scenes and public reactions. He uses varied methods, notably fishing line for strangulation, and integrates video editing as part of the piece, positioning himself as a modern art provocateur rather than a conventional serial killer. After Dexter kills Donkovich, Weiss sends Dexter a video recording of the kill, proving he has Dexter under surveillance, and shifting his focus to publicly exposing and destroying him. He then murders a Cub Scout den leader in a staged display to taunt Dexter and kills his video editor, Kenneth Wimble, via a house explosion, continuing to fold murder into performance. Weiss's larger plan is to project the Dexter Donkovich kill video on a landmark hotel during a major art festival at the Hotel Nacional in Havana, turning Dexter's secret into public art. Dexter and Kyle Chutsky pursue him to Cuba, but Weiss stays ahead of them and forces their return to Miami. During Miami's art event, Weiss kidnaps Rita and mounts a live exhibit, disguising the abduction as a performance and attempting to strangle Dexter with fishing line while filming. Brandon tries to kill Aster and Cody when they try to free their mom. The struggle ends when Rita kicks Weiss onto a table saw. He bleeds to death from the injuries. Weiss literalizes the series' art violence theme by weaponizing public spectacle, social media video, and installation art. He is among the few adversaries who both outmaneuvers Dexter tactically and threatens to expose his identity in front of an audience, raising the stakes from private code enforcement to public annihilation. Bernard Elon, the copycat. Bernard becomes Dexter's primary adversary in the novel Double Dexter. After witnessing Dexter dismember a child predator in an abandoned house and fleeing the scene, he begins stalking Dexter online, under the moniker The Shadow, and attempts blackmail, shifting rapidly from opportunist to obsessed copycat. Elon exploits digital systems to erase and replace identities. He alters databases to indicate he died 2 years earlier, and later assumes the alias Doug Crowley. He lures Dexter to his ex-wife Alyssa Elon's home, mutilates her in a way that mimics Dexter's methods, and calls the police to frame him. Elon kills Camilla Fig, who in the novels is a forensic tech obsessed with Dexter, and manipulates the investigation so that Detective Hood fixates on Dexter as the likely culprit. Elon maintains pressure via taunting messages and continued data tampering, leveraging his hacking skills to stay a step ahead. Bernard follows Dexter's family to the Keys, murders Detective Hood, and poses as a scout leader to abduct Aster and Cody to Garden Key. Dexter reaches the island, subdues Elon, and with Aster's help, Elon is thrown overboard, where a shark kills him, ending the threat. Elon is one of the few antagonists to witness a kill, systematically frame Dexter using both imitation murders and digital forgery, and target Dexter's family to force a confrontation, elevating the danger beyond exposure to direct harm. Robert Chase, Hollywood pedophile. Robert is the principal antagonist of the novel Dexter: Final Cut, a high-profile actor shadowing Dexter and Miami Homicide to research an acting role. In industry circles, he is suspected of being a pedophile, targeting prepubescent girls. Chase assaults and kills using knives or blunt weapons, notably a baseball bat, having no disposal method. His violence is driven by the need to protect himself. He kills anyone who catches him with Aster. Confirmed victims in the novel are Kathy Podrowski, Jackie's assistant, Jackie Forrest, a famous Hollywood actress and his co-star, and Rita Morgan. He also incapacitated Dexter Morgan with a bat and restrained him. The confrontation ends when Aster Bennett fatally stabs Chase, stopping him before he can kill Dexter. Ironically, Dexter is arrested for the murders of Jackie, Rita, and Robert, though he didn't kill any of them. Chase is one of the few book antagonists whose actions directly target Dexter's family and inner circle, escalating the threat from exposure to intimate personal harm, while weaponizing celebrity access to penetrate an active investigation. Raoul and his cartel. Raoul and his associates appear as major antagonists in Dexter is Dead, the final novel in Jeff Lindsay's series. Unlike the individual killers Dexter faced in earlier stories, Raoul represented the violent power of organized crime. He was a member of a Cuban drug cartel, ruthless in his methods and relentless in pursuing control. Brian Moser was an employee who had stolen a fortune from Raoul. When Brian used the money to bail Dexter out of jail, Raoul went after both brothers. Raoul's conflict with Dexter escalated when the cartel targeted Deborah and Dexter's children. He orchestrated the kidnapping of Aster, Cody, Nicholas, and Lily Ann, using them as leverage against Dexter. This made the threat intensely personal, forcing Dexter into a situation where he had to navigate both the brutality of a cartel and the vulnerability of his family. Unlike many of Dexter's enemies, who killed to satisfy personal compulsions, Raoul operated within a system designed to enforce dominance and expand criminal influence. In the novels, the final fight ends up with Raoul and the cartel dead, along with Brian and Dexter, leaving Deborah to raise all of the children. Steve Gonzalez, philanthropist predator, comics and cameo in novel. Steve is a billionaire Miami developer, public do-gooder known as the Condo King, and head of the New Hope Foundation. He is a former classmate of Dexter's, appears as a primary antagonist in the Dexter comic series, and is briefly referenced in the novel Dexter in the Dark. Publicly praised as Mother Teresa, he conceals a violent criminal life. His confirmed victims include stabbing Arthur Bleak and murder staged as suicide for DeVoe. Gonzalez favors opportunistic, visible staging bodies displayed in plain sight and employs varied tools, including a Molotov-style explosive, syringe, and small pitchfork. He twice attempts to kill Dexter and Deborah, once by firebombing Deborah's vehicle and later by abducting them to a warehouse at Mar Dorado. He's got a verified victim count of at least 2, with indications of additional victims tied to his foundation and resort. As boys, Gonzalez bullied Dexter. Dexter's thwarted attempt to kill him in school is cited as a turning point for Gonzalez's later persona, connecting him to Dexter's history in both the comics and a chapter reference in the novel. Gonzalez flees to Venezuela to evade Miami authorities and is ultimately killed by Dexter. His last appearance is Dexter Issue 5. Bruce Grigsby, white supremacist manhunter. In the comic Dexter Down Under, Bruce is a wealthy Australian developer and public philanthropist who secretly runs a white supremacist killing operation. He is founder and CEO of Citizens for a White Australia and the principal antagonist across the 5-issue Dexter Down Under series. Grigsby is confirmed to have at least 8 victims, often entire immigrant families murdered to send a message that aligned with his racist ideology. His primary weapon is a knife, and he leaves bodies on display in public spaces. Grigsby escalates to hunted game scenarios at his remote property, using a tank-like robotic vehicle for pursuit and a quadcopter for aerial surveillance. He also gamifies violence via a website that starts as a kill endangered species game and funnels members into real human hunts. After multiple immigrant family murders, Dexter and Detective Shauna Wiggs trace patterns to properties linked to Grigsby. They discover imprisoned migrants at an Ayers Rock farm. Grigsby shoots Dexter and Shauna, then releases them half-clothed into the desert to hunt them with his robotic vehicle and drone. During the final chase, Shauna wounds Grigsby, while Dexter shoots his leg, severs his hand, and snaps his neck. Dexter and Shauna then burn his body and free the captives. Grigsby is one of the franchise's most organized sport hunters, pairing racist ideology with technology-assisted pursuit and public staging, broadening Dexter's rogues gallery beyond Miami to an international, paramilitary-style predator.
Nurse Mary, novels and TV. Dexter's first confirmed kill was Nurse Mary, a nurse who targeted her own patients. Instead of saving them, she poisoned them with overdoses, making their deaths appear natural. Harry suspected her crimes and allowed Dexter to act. In a primitive version of his later ritual, Dexter stabbed her to death, marking the beginning of his path as a killer. The character is the same in the novels, except that Dexter also collected a blood slide. He did it from his very first kill in the books. Juan Reynes. Juan was a pimp responsible for the murder of Harry Morgan's confidential informant and her partner. The justice system failed to convict him. With Harry's knowledge, a young Dexter brought Reynes to a makeshift kill table in their garage and dismembered him. This was one of the defining moments that cemented Dexter's trajectory as the Bay Harbor Butcher and ultimately drove Harry to suicide. Cal Rooney. Cal was a carnival night watchman who used his position to stalk and murder women. He had access to the fairgrounds after hours and preyed on victims in isolated areas. In a flashback sequence, Dexter is shown capturing Rooney and killing him in a ritual setting with a cleaver. Tony Ferrer, Original Sin. Tony was a ruthless Miami loan shark who preyed on desperate Cuban immigrants. Those who failed to pay were executed. Under the alias Patrick Bateman, Dexter infiltrated Ferrer's life, overpowered him, and lured him to an abandoned area.
Unfortunately, unlike you, I've got an edge that money can't scratch.
No!
He was strapped to a table, killed and dumped in the swamp. This marked one of Dexter's earliest fully premeditated ritual kills. Anthony Moretti, Original Sin. Anthony, also known as Mad Dog, was a feared hitman responsible for dozens of murders. Dexter selected him after finding his case in department archives. Although Dexter prepared the ritual, Moretti broke free and ran into the street, where he was struck and killed by a truck. Even though Dexter didn't land the final blow, the pursuit directly caused Moretti's death, and Dexter claimed him as a victim. Levi Reed, Original Sin. Levi was a serial home invasion killer who murdered 8 people, including 2 children. He escaped conviction due to a faulty alibi. Following Harry's instruction, Dexter tracked Reed down, sedated him with a veterinary drug, and placed him on a kill table lined with photos of his victims. Dexter then stabbed him in the chest, making Reed one of his first true ritual kills under the code. Aaron Spencer, Original Sin. Aaron was a respected homicide captain and Harry Morgan's close friend. Secretly, he abducted and killed children as revenge against his unfaithful wife.
Let's just get it over with.
After a first failed attempt, Dexter eventually drugged then stabbed Spencer in the chest and dumped his body in Biscayne Bay. This betrayal of Harry's trust reinforced Dexter's role as judge, jury, and executioner. Marchetti. Shown only in a Season 5 montage, Marchetti was one of Dexter's earlier off-screen kills that he was hunting during his first date with Rita. Little is revealed about him beyond being one of Dexter's pre-series victims. His inclusion reminds the audience that Dexter's ritual long predates the events of Miami Metro. Mike Donovan, TV and novels. Mike was a choir teacher and a trusted figure in the community. Behind closed doors, he was a predator who abducted and molested young boys, then buried their bodies beneath a cabin. Dexter uncovered the evidence and confronted Donovan with the truth. In that same cabin, Donovan was forced to face the lives he destroyed.
Open your eyes and look at what you did!
Dexter slit his throat, making Donovan the first on-screen kill and an introduction to his ritual. In the novels, he's known as Father Donovan and was Dexter's 37th blood slide collected. Jamie Jaworski. From the novel Darkly Dreaming Dexter, Jaworski is introduced as a pedophile school janitor. He targeted blonde girls around 12-13 years old, recorded his crimes and kills, then posted them online. Dexter identified him as a target, tortured him into confessing, and killed him at a construction site. This version of the story presents a darker Dexter who takes sadistic pleasure in the kill, unlike his later portrayals. Jamie Jaworski, TV series. Jamie is reimagined as a valet by day and a sadistic predator by night. He kidnapped Jane Saunders and murdered her in a snuff film he posted online. A botched search warrant let him walk free. Dexter confirmed his guilt by identifying a tattoo from the video and followed him to a construction site.
But I'm not sorry.
Of course not. No, I'm not sorry either.
Jaworski admitted his crimes without remorse. Dexter responded with a swift decapitation using a meat cleaver. Matt Chambers. Matt was a repeat offender who committed 5 hit-and-runs across multiple states. Each time, he escaped justice through fake injuries, new identities, and exploiting legal loopholes. Dexter met Chambers by posing as a fellow alcoholic. Once alone, Chambers was strapped down.
I didn't do anything.
Some people believe that. Problem is, I don't.
Confronted with the deaths he caused, and stabbed in the chest, ending the cycle of reckless killings. Alex Timmons. Early cuts in TV. Alex is a Marine sniper who used his training as an excuse to kill. During the Gulf War, he murdered 3 civilian children. Dexter confirmed his crimes and captured him, preparing a ritual kill. On the table, Timmons admitted to his murders.
Yes, I did it. Is that what you want to hear?
In early cuts, he was fearful and begged for his life. In the TV flashback, however, he remained unmoved when faced with his victims' photos. Either way, Dexter's knife ended his career as a sniper-turned-killer. Gene Marshall. Early cuts in TV. Gene was a wealthy arsonist obsessed with fire. He set buildings ablaze with people trapped inside, savoring the destruction. In early cuts, Dexter had Marshall locked in his trunk when he suddenly woke up and attacked. Marshall slashed at him with a knife, forcing Dexter to improvise and kill him by running over his head with a car. In the TV series, Gene only appears as a brief flashback memory when Dexter disposes of his slide box.
Have you ever watched someone burn alive?
Shown as a more typical ritual kill. Cindy Landon. Early cuts in TV. Cindy was a black widow who poisoned wealthy husbands for profit. Each death looked natural, allowing her to inherit their wealth. Dexter posed as her type, drugged her, and prepared the kill. In the TV series, she awoke on the table and tried to seduce her way out of death.
You if you let me go.
In early cuts, the scene was far more theatrical. Cindy was bound inside a magician's box for the classic Saw the Woman in Half trick, and Dexter killed her with a chainsaw. Dr. Emmett Meridian. Emmett was a respected psychiatrist who manipulated vulnerable patients into suicide. Instead of helping, he preyed on despair. Dexter went undercover as a patient to confirm his suspicions.
I'm gonna tell you something that I've never told anyone before.
Okay.
I'm a serial killer.
Dexter even thanked him for helping him work through his issues before cutting his throat, one of the rare times Dexter acknowledged irony in his ritual. Jorge and Valerie Castillo. They posed as a married couple running a salvage yard. Behind the facade, they trafficked undocumented immigrants, exploiting or murdering those who couldn't pay. Dexter uncovered their operation and captured them both. In the kill room, strapped side by side, Jorge remained unrepentant while Valerie tried to excuse herself as a victim of circumstance.
How do you love each other? You're like me. You make it work. How?
After getting marriage advice, Dexter killed them both, ending their brutal trade. Brian Moser. Brian was the ice truck killer and Dexter's biological brother. He killed sex workers, drained their blood, and staged their bodies as elaborate displays only Dexter could understand. When the truth came out, Brian offered Dexter a life without the code, but it meant killing Deborah. Dexter drugged him and placed him on the table.
You've done more to deserve my knife than anyone.
Choosing his adoptive sister and the code over his blood, Dexter slit Brian's throat with a scalpel, staging it as a suicide. Little Chino. Little Chino was a towering gang enforcer who killed with a machete, including the brutal murder of a child. He evaded conviction through fear and intimidation. Dexter botched his first attempt to kill him, allowing Chino to escape. On his second try, Dexter succeeded, capturing him in an elevator, sedating him with an elephant tranquilizer dart.
You kill me. What do you leave behind?
A world without you.
Killing him in a prepared kill room. Roger Hicks. Roger was a slick used car salesman who hated women. He thought they were ungrateful, so he assaulted and murdered them in staged accidents. Dexter confirmed his pattern and took him to a kill room that he set up in a house that Hicks killed a previous victim.
I'll have them open it up. I'm the manager. They do what I say.
The manager's name is Rick Buxton.
Well, yeah, but I've been there longer than he has.
You've been there 3 months.
At the other lot.
Hicks tried to talk his way out, still spinning lies. Dexter ended the charade with a stab to the chest. Ken Olson. Ken was a copycat killer who tried to imitate the Bay Harbor Butcher by killing a petty burglar. Unlike Dexter, he had no code or ritual, just sloppy theatrics.
Why are you so interested in the Bay Harbor Butcher? Holy shit, you're him.
Dexter captured him and took him to the abandoned train car where Olson tried to kill his third victim. Olson boasted he was just like Dexter. Dexter responded by decapitating him with a cleaver, eliminating both his arrogance and his attempt at imitation. Santos Jimenez. Santos was one of the men who butchered Dexter's mother in front of him as a child, the event that shaped his entire life. Years later, Dexter tracked him down working in a remote bar. He beat Jimenez severely, but initially let him live. Later, Jimenez tried to kill Dexter with Lila's help. Dexter found Jimenez at a cabin he used for his drug business and decapitated him with a chainsaw. This kill wasn't about the code, it was personal vengeance. Jose Garza. Jose was a drug trafficker searching for a missing shipment. He unknowingly contacted Jimenez's phone, which Dexter had kept, fearing exposure at the cabin where Dokes was being held. Dexter lured Garza in, sedated him, and killed him in front of Dokes. He dismembered Garza with a saw, leaving the remains inside the cabin. Esteban and Teo Famosa. The Famosa brothers were drug runners who encountered Dokes while he was trying to escape captivity. They captured him, but Dexter intervened. Esteban was killed first off-screen. After Dokes created a distraction, Teo was then shot in the chest by Dexter, preventing the brothers from exposing him and keeping Dokes under his control. Lila West. Lila was Dexter's Narcotics Anonymous sponsor and eventual girlfriend. At first, she seemed to accept Dexter for who he was, but her obsession turned dangerous. She murdered Detective Dokes by blowing up the cabin where he was held, and later attempted to kill Rita's children. When she fled to Paris, Dexter followed. He drugged her and stabbed her in the chest, ending her destructive hold over his life. Oscar Prado. Oscar was the younger brother of Assistant District Attorney Miguel Prado. Dexter encountered him in a drug dealer's house while searching for Fribo. During a struggle, Dexter stabbed Oscar in the chest in self-defense, killing him instantly. This was not a planned kill, and did not follow the codefall, the first time Dexter truly broke it. Fred Fribo Bowman. Fribo was a low-level drug dealer and the target Dexter originally pursued when Oscar died. Dexter eventually found him hiding in Tegan's home. Fribo fought back, but Dexter tranquilized him and dragged him to the garage where he thrust a bayonet into his neck, killing him. This kill was both about enforcing the code and correcting the mistake of Oscar Prado's death. Nathan Martin. Nathan was a registered sex offender who stalked children in grocery stores and on Miami's beaches. Dexter caught him photographing Astor, Rita's daughter. That night, Dexter confronted Martin in his home. Without the usual ritual or table, he strangled him with a garrote, saying,
"Nobody hurts my children."
A kill driven by paternal instinct rather than the code. Ethan Turner. Ethan was a professional predator who seduced and married wealthy women before killing them for their money. Twice he escaped conviction through technicalities. Miguel Prado brought him up in conversation, and Dexter did the vetting. He tracked him onto a cruise ship, sedated him with M99, and killed him while out at sea. His body was dismembered and dumped overboard through the cabin porthole. Clemson Galt. Galt was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood who murdered his pregnant girlfriend and orchestrated multiple killings from inside prison. With Miguel Prado's help, Dexter staged an escape for Galt and led him to a kill room. Despite Miguel's interest in participating, Dexter completed the ritual alone, stabbing Galt in the chest. Camilla Fig. Camilla was a longtime family friend of the Morgans and a record supervisor for Miami Metro. She was one of the few people who truly cared for Dexter. When she was dying of cancer, she asked Dexter to help end her suffering. At first he refused, clinging to the code, but eventually he returned with her favorite dessert, a slice of key lime pie laced with sodium pentothal.
You finally brought me the perfect pie.
She ate, smiled, and passed peacefully. It was the only time Dexter killed purely out of mercy. Miguel Prado. Miguel, Oscar's older brother and Miami's assistant district attorney, befriended Dexter after Oscar's death. Their friendship unraveled when Miguel pursued personal vendettas, murdering his rival Ellen Wolf outside the code. Realizing Miguel was too dangerous, Dexter set a trap, drugged him, and placed him on the kill table.
I accept you. I accept you, Dexter, like a brother.
I killed my brother. I killed yours too.
Using a garrote, Dexter strangled Miguel to death, then left him in the park partially skinned, staged to resemble a Skinner murder. George King, the Skinner. George, known as the Skinner, was a sadistic torturer who kidnapped and flayed his victims alive. While hunting for Fribo, King captured Anton Briggs, who was rescued by Deborah and Quinn. He later kidnapped Dexter. The two fought, but Dexter overpowered him, snapped his neck, and staged the scene as a suicide by dropping the body in front of police. Benito Benny Gomez. Benny was a former boxer with a history of violent assaults. In court, Dexter accidentally brought the wrong evidence, allowing Gomez to walk free after one of his victims died. Dexter considered Gomez his responsibility and corrected the mistake. He tracked him to his trailer, sedated him, and transported him to an abandoned gym where he had prepared a kill room inside the boxing ring. Dexter stabbed him in the heart, ending his streak of brutality. With no time to dispose of the body, he hid it in a punching bag. Later, after a sleep-deprived car accident left him with temporary amnesia, he rediscovered Gomez's corpse still stuffed inside. Zoe Kruger. Zoe was a corrupt police officer who staged the murder of her husband and daughter to look like it was done by drug dealer Darius Ray. Evidence pointed back to her, but she covered her tracks expertly. Dexter confirmed her guilt, and when Kruger realized he was investigating her, she threatened him directly. She broke into his home, but Dexter was waiting. He sedated her and took her home, where he turned her daughter's bedroom into a kill room.
You're that good? Or that dead?
You gonna rape and kill me?
What is it with you and rape? No one's raping anyone. Killing, on the other hand.
He slit her throat, ending the facade of the grieving widow. Jonathan Farrow. Jonathan was a famous fashion photographer with a reputation for abusing women. When one of his models was found murdered, Dexter made him a target. He drugged and restrained Farrow, then killed him in ritual fashion. Later evidence suggested Farrow may have been innocent, marking one of the few times Dexter's code failed him. Stan Beaudry. Stan was a trucker who beat a prostitute to death with a crowbar and dumped her body along a highway. Contaminated evidence during the chain of custody let him walk free. With the FBI closing in on Trinity, Dexter needed a suspect to misdirect them. He killed Beaudry with a reciprocating saw in his own tractor trailer, turned kill room. After, Dexter planted evidence to frame him as Trinity and buy time to kill the real one. Arthur Mitchell, Trinity Killer. Arthur was perhaps Dexter's most dangerous adversary. Outwardly a church deacon and family man, he lived a secret life of ritual killings that followed a decades-long cycle. A kidnapped boy buried alive, a young woman in a bathtub, a mother pushed to her death, and a father bludgeoned with a hammer. Dexter studied him closely, hoping to learn how to balance dual lives, but ultimately discovered Arthur's family lived in terror. In the final confrontation, Dexter drugged him, strapped him to the table, and killed him with a hammer. But Arthur had already struck back, killing Rita and leaving Harrison crying in a pool of his mother's blood. Rankin. Rankin was a drunken, belligerent stranger who crossed paths with Dexter shortly after Rita's death. Overwhelmed with grief and guilt, Dexter snapped when Rankin mocked him in a bathroom.
My wife died and it was my fault.
Well, I'm real sorry for your loss, but your dead wife can suck my dick.
In a blind rage, Dexter beat him to death with a boat anchor. It was one of the rare kills driven purely by emotion rather than the code or ritual. Boyd Fowler. Boyd worked in Miami's dead animal pickup, but he used the job to hide a darker crime. He was part of a group that kidnapped, assaulted, tortured, and murdered at least 12 women by stuffing them in barrels of formaldehyde and electrocuting them. Dexter confirmed his guilt, sedated him, and performed his ritual. After killing him, Dexter realized there was a witness. Lumen, the 13th victim and only survivor. She became a central part of his life that season. Dan Mendel. Mendel was one of the men in the Barrel Girl gang. Lumen tracked him down and shot him, but he survived long enough to warn Jordan Chase. Dexter finished the job by snapping his neck, marking the first kill he and Lumen shared together. Lance Robinson. Lance targeted men through kink meetups, killing them and staging the scenes as autoerotic accidents. Dexter sedated him and left him bound in a trunk while he helped Lumen. When Robinson escaped, Dexter chased him down and strangled him with plastic wrap, narrowly escaping getting caught by Deborah and Masuka. Dexter posed the scene to appear as though they killed each other during a sexual encounter. Cole Harmon. Cole was Jordan Chase's head of security and enforcer in the Barrel Girl operation. He oversaw abductions and was responsible for most of the brutality against the women. Dexter tracked him to a hotel during a self-help conference. Harmon saw Lumen in the lobby, followed her, and almost killed her. Dexter got there just before he choked the life out of her. He sedated him and completed the ritual. It was the first kill that Lumen fully witnessed, deepening their partnership. Stan Liddy. Stan was a disgraced ex-cop hired by Quinn to spy on Dexter. He discovered too much, capturing incriminating footage of Dexter and Lumen. Liddy kidnapped Dexter, but he managed to break free during a struggle. Using Liddy's own knife, Dexter stabbed him in the chest, killing him inside the van. Ben and Roger. Ben and Roger were Miami paramedics who intentionally let and sometimes caused their patients to die in order to harvest and sell their organs. Dexter faked an injury to lure them in. After sedating both, he strapped them to gurneys inside their ambulance. Using the ambulance defibrillator paddles, Dexter executed them simultaneously with powerful electric shocks. Joe Walker. Joe was a former high school football star and abusive husband who murdered his wife Janet, a high school friend of Dexter's. At their 20-year reunion, blood evidence confirmed his crime. Dexter lured him to the groundskeeper's shack, drugged him, and strapped him down. He then smashed Walker's skull with a sledgehammer before stabbing him in the heart. Walter Kenny, the Tooth Fairy. Walter was once an infamous serial killer known as the Tooth Fairy, who murdered 16 prostitutes in the 1980s, strangling them and taking their lateral incisors as a trophy. He killed again, which brought Dexter to his door. By then, Kenny was a bitter old man living in a retirement home. After Walter attempted to kill him, Dexter subdued him, strapped him to a recliner in his own room.
All I ever cared about was killing, and I can't even do that right anymore. That's what you got to look forward to. This is your future, and it includes adult diapers.
And suffocated him with a pillow. He staged it as a natural death, denying Kenny the fame he hoped for. Julio Benes. Julio was head of the Locos gang and responsible for multiple disappearances. He threatened brother Sam. Dexter confronted him in a barbershop and slashed his throat while he sat in a chair where he had previously killed Hector Nunez. This was an improvisational kill, not a ritual one. Nick. Nick was an ex-convict and former gang member who pretended to be reformed, but murdered brother Sam in cold blood. When Dexter confronted him and explained that Sam had forgiven him, Nick mocked Sam's faith and last words.
They got no proof. Nobody can do anything.
In a burst of rage, Dexter tackled him into the ocean and drowned him with his bare hands. Norm. Norm was a motel owner in Nebraska who extorted Dexter for money after stealing Dexter's knives and forensic kit. When Norm pulled a gun, Dexter reacted, impaling him through the stomach with a pitchfork. With no ocean to dump the body, Dexter improvises and drops it into a corn silo, leaving it buried in grain. Steve Dorsey. Steve, also known as Doomsday Adam, was a loyal disciple of Travis Marshall. Dexter confronted him aboard a yacht where he and his wife Beth killed Holly Benson under Travis Marshall's orders. Mistaking him for Travis, Dexter stabbed Dorsey in the upper abdomen, killing him. Beth Dorsey. Beth carried out the Wormwood attack under Travis Marshall's direction, attempting to release poisonous gas inside Miami Metro. Dexter intervened, forcing her into an interrogation room and sealing the door. As the gas filled the space, Beth died from her own weapon while Dexter held the door shut. Alberto. Alberto was the captain of a Cuban migrant boat that rescued Dexter at sea. Armed with a gun, he began robbing passengers and threatening a pregnant woman. Dexter grabbed a boat hook and impaled him, tossing him overboard to drown. Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer. Travis was a religious fanatic staging apocalyptic murders based on revelation. He kidnapped Harrison for a final sacrifice. Dexter saved his son, captured Travis, and took him to the same church where his spree began.
I've known people who believed in God. They would never use their faith as a convenient excuse to kill 10 people.
There, Dexter secured him to the table and killed him with the sword Marshall had stolen. Deborah walked in on the crime scene, discovering Dexter's secret. It was then that Dexter dropped a bloodslide, a mistake that led Maria LaGuerta to reopen the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation. Victor Baskov. Victor was a hitman for the Koshka Brotherhood who killed Detective Mike Anderson. Dexter traced him to Miami International Airport, sedated him in a restroom, and dragged him into a nearby storage container. There, Dexter bludgeoned Victor to death with a fire extinguisher, before disposing of the body in the Gulf Stream. Ray Speltzer. Ray was a ritualistic killer who built elaborate mazes for his victims and wore a bull's head mask while hunting them. He escaped conviction in court and quickly killed again, and almost killed Deborah. While Dexter was in Speltzer's trailer looking for evidence, Speltzer knocked him unconscious and left him in the maze, but Dexter managed to escape. Later, Dexter turned the tables, knocking Speltzer out with a shovel, chained him inside a crematorium. Stabbed him, and then burned his body, along with his entire bloodslide collection. Unmaimed hitman. Dexter broke into Victor Baskov's apartment, planning to ambush Isaac Serco, but instead encountered a hitman hired for the same job. The man pulled a gun, but Dexter struck first, slashing his throat and leaving the body inside the apartment. Oleg Mikic. Oleg was a sniper for the Koshka Brotherhood, sent to eliminate Isaac Serco. Dexter found him practicing at a public shooting range, timing his movements with the sound of gunfire. Dexter moved in, covered Oleg's mouth, and stabbed him through the back, pinning him to the bench. Clint McKay. Clint was Hannah McKay's estranged father, a con man and abusive figure who reappeared to blackmail her. Dexter lured him to a parking garage, sedated him with M99, and transported him on his boat, wrapped in plastic.
You got the devil inside you, boy.
No, I think it's just me.
Clint was stabbed through the heart before being dumped overboard, removing a toxic presence from Hannah's life. Hector Estrada. Hector was the last living member of the drug crew who killed Dexter's mother. He was the one who ordered the hit. LaGuerta arranged his release from prison to bait Dexter. Initially, Dexter trapped Estrada in a shipping container but let him go, realizing at the last minute it was a setup. Later, Dexter tracked him down again, sedated him, and brought him back to the same container, where he sat for 3 days with his brother Brian in their mother's blood. There, Dexter killed him with a knife through the heart, but only after using him to lure LaGuerta into the container, where Deb ultimately shot LaGuerta to save Dexter. Unidentified victim. At the start of Season 8, Dexter is briefly shown in a plastic-wrapped kill room wearing his face shield, holding a reciprocating saw. He leans toward an unseen victim. The body is never named, but it confirms that Dexter was still killing between seasons. Andrew Briggs. Andrew was a thief. Deborah stayed with him at a motel while she was working undercover to recover jewels he stole. He stepped in when Deborah and Dexter were having a heated discussion outside their room.
Take your hands off her.
Briggs pulled a knife during the struggle. Dexter wrestled it away and stabbed him in the chest, killing him in front of Deb. Ron Galuzzo. Ron was a former patient of Dr. Vogel and a cannibal posing as an exercise equipment salesman. Dexter discovered human remains in his refrigerator and crockpot, confirming his crimes. He drugged and restrained Galuzzo in his kitchen before killing him, preventing him from consuming any more victims. A.J. Yates. A.J. was another of Dr. Vogel's former patients who abducted women and kept them bound in a hidden room beneath his house. He had a foot fetish, keeping a shoe from each victim after breaking each toe and amputating one of their feet. When he kidnapped Vogel, Dexter tracked them to a vacant home belonging to one of Yates's clients. Noticing blood near the bed, Dexter drove a curtain rod straight through the mattress and into Yates's chest, killing him instantly. Oliver Saxon, the brain surgeon. Oliver, born Daniel Vogel, was Dr. Vogel's son and the true brain surgeon killer. He murdered multiple victims, removed sections of their brains, leaving them for his mom. He shot Deborah Morgan, ultimately leaving her in a coma. Although Saxon was arrested, Dexter confronted him in the police station.
No, I'm here to kill you with that pen.
Using a ballpoint pen, Dexter stabbed him in the throat, killing him in front of a surveillance camera. Officially ruled as self-defense, but Dexter knew it was personal vengeance. Deborah Morgan. Deborah was shot by Oliver Saxon. Soon after surgery, she threw a clot and suffered a massive stroke, leaving her brain dead and in a permanent coma. With the hospital preparing to evacuate everyone before Hurricane Laura hit, Dexter entered her room, shut off the ventilator, and held her hand as she passed. He then rolled her gurney to his boat and buried her at sea. Treating her death as both family and victim. Matt Caldwell. New blood. Matt was the arrogant son of local businessman Kurt Caldwell. Years earlier, he drunkenly crashed a boat into another, killing 5 people, and his father used his wealth to cover it up. In Iron Lake, Matt illegally hunted and killed a rare white buck. That act shattered Dexter's decade-long restraint. He hit Matt over the head with his rifle, set up a kill table in his shed, and stabbed him in the chest, his first ritual kill in 10 years. Jasper Hodge. New blood. Jasper was a drug dealer responsible for supplying the fentanyl-laced pills that nearly killed Harrison. After linking Jasper to multiple deaths, Dexter broke into his cabin and confronted him. He refused to take responsibility. Using Jasper's own stash, Dexter forced him to overdose, staging it to look self-inflicted. Elric Kane. New blood. He bound Dexter in the back seat of his car, but Dexter escaped by choking Kane and causing a crash. Elric shot Dexter in the leg as he fled, but during the ensuing chase, Dexter turned the tables, subdued him, and killed him. He covered Kane's body with a tarp, later returning to dispose of it. Kurt Caldwell. New blood. Kurt, Matt's father, posed as a charitable local leader, but secretly abducted, hunted, and killed runaway girls. He embalmed their bodies and displayed them in a bunker beneath his property. When Dexter and Harrison uncovered the truth, Dexter ambushed Kurt as he was trying to flee town. He strapped Kurt to a kill table inside his bunker, confronted him with the faces of his victims.
No, I saved them. They're just runaways.
And stabbed him in the chest, all with Harrison watching. Wiggles the Clown. New blood in novels. Wiggles was a children's entertainer who used his costume to lure and kill kids. His existence was revealed only through Dexter's conversation with Harrison, as an example of a clear code-approved target. In the flashback, Wiggles is shown tied to a kill table in full clown makeup, begging for his life before Dexter kills him. He was the same character in the show and the novels. Sergeant Logan. New blood. Logan was a good cop, a high school wrestling coach, and one of the few in Iron Lake who truly cared for Dexter and Harrison. When Angela arrested Dexter, Logan was assigned to guard him. Desperate to escape and reach Harrison, Dexter tried to manipulate Logan into opening his cell. When Logan drew his gun, Dexter snapped his neck in a single brutal move. It was the first time Dexter knowingly killed an innocent man to save himself. Ronald Red Schmidt, the Dark Passenger. Resurrection. Red was a New York serial killer targeting and decapitating rideshare drivers, known in the media as the Dark Passenger. Dexter identifies and traps him.
Your name? Who are you?
I'm Dexter. And there's only room in this world for one dark passenger.
Kills him in his home. He assumed Schmidt's identity and used his thumbprint to infiltrate Leon Prater's secret society of killers. Lowell, the tattoo collector. Lowell was a sadistic killer who preserved tattoos from his victim's skin as trophies. Dexter intercepted him as he was about to abduct another victim, using Lowell's own anesthesia against him. He brought him back to the tattoo shop.
Why do you keep the skins?
I like looking at him.
Exposed his crimes, and stabbed him through the heart, ending one of the network's most grotesque predators. Gareth's twin, Resurrection. Gareth's twin was the louder half of the Gemini duo, arrogant and obsessed with fame. He caught Dexter following him and reading a coded note meant for his brother. Tracking Dexter back home, he accepted a drink laced with M99. Once subdued, Dexter stabbed him in the chest, eliminating one half of the Gemini legacy, although he didn't know he was a twin at the time. Gareth Gemini Killer. Resurrection. Gareth was the quieter twin of the Gemini Killers, known for staging paired victims with their throats slit and bodies posed symmetrically. At a gathering of Leon Prater's network, he grew suspicious of Dexter and attacked with a broken wine glass after hearing his brother was dead.
Did you feel a sting in your chest last night? Around 8:20?
Why?
Because that's when I stabbed your brother in the chest.
Dexter overpowered him and drove the glass into his neck, killing him in front of the group. Leon Prater. Resurrection. A billionaire venture capitalist and public philanthropist who secretly curated a private vault of serial killer memorabilia, including trophies from their kills. He hosted invitation-only gatherings for active killers, a de facto serial killer club run from his Manhattan manor. His fixer, Charlie, recruited attendees and carried out orders, while Prater bankrolled the operation and maintained the vault. When Dexter refused to kill Angel Batista, Prater impulsively shot Batista in the back and locked Dexter inside the vault to die. With Harrison's help, Dexter escaped, but returned when Prater targeted Harrison.
So thank you for giving me the, what do you call that? The itch, the need, the great yearning,
the urge.
Offering himself in exchange for his son's life, Dexter was refused. Harrison incapacitated Prater with M99, allowing Dexter to kill and dismember him. Before leaving, Dexter triggered the vault alarm so NYPD would uncover Prater's files and link him to Batista's murder, then dumped the remains in New York Harbor. Dexter didn't take a trophy stating he didn't want to remember Prater. Coleman and Max Lindquist, early cuts. A father-son duo who ritualistically decapitated victims with a hacksaw, posing the bodies to match their sadistic fantasies. Dexter tracked them down and captured both. He bound them side by side, forcing them to hear each other's final words before killing them. One of his earliest and most brutal double kills. Robert Milson, early cuts. Milson was a sadistic killer who lured women through online ads and then murdered them. Dexter uncovered his pattern and took him to a prepared kill room. Strapped down, Milson offered excuses, but Dexter silenced him permanently with a knife to the chest. Peter Thornton, early cuts. Thornton was a known sexual predator who assaulted multiple women but always avoided conviction. Dexter posed as a potential victim to lure him into a trap. After subduing him with M99, Dexter confronted him with his crimes before delivering the kill. Dexter novel kills. Unnamed shop teacher, a predatory shop teacher at Dexter's high school. The details of his crimes are only implied, but Dexter killed him off page, taking his second blood slide. Nurse Mary was his first in the novels. 34 early victims. Before the first novel begins, Dexter has already killed at least 34 unnamed predators, each confirmed with a blood slide. These unseen kills firmly establish him as active long before the events of the first book. Randy McGregor, a violent predator whose crimes escalated toward murder. Dexter tortured him, cutting off 4 of his fingers before killing him. His blood provided slide number 40. Steve Riker, another of Dexter's off-page kills, established through mention. The method isn't specified, but blood slide 41 confirms he was a victim of the ritual. Alexander Xander Macaulay, a sadistic predator linked to ritual murders, implied to have been dispatched with a fillet knife. 2 unnamed guards. While infiltrating the cult, Dexter killed 2 guards. One died from having his head smashed against a wall, the other from a knife to the solar plexus. No slides were taken, as these were survival kills. Darius Starzak, a cult-connected killer whom Dexter initially failed to finish on the table. Later, in self-defense, Dexter shot him. No slide was taken, marking this as one of his rare improvised kills. Professor Wilkins, another cult member. Dexter shot him rather than performing a ritual kill. Alex Doncevich, an artist who staged human bodies as grotesque installations. Dexter killed him with a surgical saw in his own bathtub, slicing him into pieces. However, Dexter later finds out that he wasn't a murderer. He and his partner stole the bodies from a morgue. Killing Alex led to his partner Brandon Weiss becoming an actual killer, going after Dexter and his family. Victor Chapin, a predator involved in a cannibal cult, Dexter carved him up with a fillet knife. Unnamed cannibal, part of the same cannibal circle, Dexter killed him with a tire iron to the head. Bobby Acosta, Vlad, a member of the Acosta crime family tied to the cannibalism plot, Dexter captured and killed him. Unnamed pedophile. At the beginning of the novel Double Dexter, he is in an abandoned house dismembering a pedophile. A witness watches with Dexter, unaware that he's there. He only hears him leaving. This witness becomes a copycat killer and tries to frame Dexter for multiple killings and goes after his family. Bernard Elon, alias Doug Crowley, a serial copycat obsessed with Dexter. After multiple encounters, Dexter fed him alive to a hammerhead shark with Astor's help. 4 unnamed victims, mentioned only in reference. 4 additional ritual kills are confirmed between books, all with slides collected. Ivan, a cartel bomber, tortured and killed by Dexter and Brian together. Patrick Bergman, Dexter's final cut. Patrick Bergman was a serial stalker obsessed with actress Jackie Forrest. He murdered multiple women who resembled her, slashing, hacking, and collecting bizarre trophies. After Dexter was assigned to protect Jackie, he uncovered Bergman's pattern and got rid of him, drowning him in the bay while pretending to save him. Robert Chase. Robert is a famous actor who shadows Dexter while researching his character. He's a pedophile targeting Dexter's stepdaughter, Astor. He murders Rita after she catches him in the act. He's ready to kill Dexter, but Astor kills him first when Robert mentions an escape without her. Though Dexter didn't kill Chase or Rita, he is charged for both murders. Unnamed guard. During the climax, Dexter stabbed a guard aboard Raoul's yacht with his ritual knife. This was one of his final kills before the series ended. Frank Kraunauer. Kraunauer was a powerful Miami attorney with deep cartel ties. He manipulated the courts, erased evidence, and framed Dexter while protecting killers. Dexter eventually captured him and delivered justice, ending the life of a man whose crimes were committed through influence rather than blood. There were also 4 additional kills in the comics that weren't mentioned anywhere else. Mustached victim, Octavio, unnamed man, and Bruce Grigsby. Other off-screen victims from the TV show. These were found in the Bay Harbor Butcher burial site, named in case files, reports, or dialogue, but the kills were never shown on screen. All are confirmed code kills by Dexter. The blood slide box found by Dokes contained dozens of confirmed slides. In addition to those named, at least 21 more victims were collected, never shown or named individually. These represent routine code kills carried out entirely off-screen.